Hello, everyone. I'm having beet, cucumber, celery, and lemon. Beet, cucumber, celery, and lemon. The whole thing, the whole lemon with the skin and all. I used to make this every day for myself at home, but I've become lazy to wash the vegetable, buy the vegetable, wash it and all that. And so I bought it yesterday, but it's lovely. It was done fresh, and it tastes really good. Gives you good fuel, especially with kind of quality of the processed food and everything out there. You got to take good care of yourself. Have your vegetable juice if you can every day, so you will get good results and good energy within you. Which hopefully that will help you to be more relaxed and not have so much conflict in your life, which we all do. And I wonder if we could talk about why are we somehow tense with no reason, and perhaps that is how we've been conditioned to negotiate life every day by conflict. One moment, this is driving me nuts. There's some kind of a thing on the screen. Looks like it was something right here. I keep wanting to get rid of it. So it seems to me that we get up in the morning and right away we have a certain image of ourselves that we find it necessary to do whatever we can to protect it. Lo and behold, that a short while later we may have a different image, and we constantly seem to be negotiating life or interacting with everything in life, with people, with images. Like our image is interacting with their image, and the image that we have in our head of ourselves is interacting with the image that we have of them in our mind. And then there comes the question where these images come from. Well, it seems to me that we seem to be trying so hard to change things according to a certain set of instructions or blueprints that we have received or accumulated in us, and that we are constantly trying to see things according to what this blueprint is. Let's say if I put my fist to the wall, as long as my fist is on the wall, no problem. As soon as I start pushing, then the wall is pushing back, because I'm trying to change that situation between my fist and the wall, and I'm trying to make it from what it is to different. In other words, I'm not seeing it as this is a wall, this is my fist. I want to see it as just my fist, or I'm going to see it as my fist into the wall. As I'm seeing it, I want to see it as something that would be changed according to what image I would like to have of what this wall is. Let me make a better example. When you look at something, like if you're on a beach and you see somebody's passing by. Since we are guys, let's say a woman is passing by and she has a certain kind of a attire on, whether it's swimwear or whether it's just shirt and pants, something that's appropriate to that weather. The first thing you do when you see her, when you look at that person and the color of what she's wearing, is if you like it or you don't like it. Right away. which that means you are coming from a certain kind of a blueprint to make an opinion before you actually pay attention to what it is that you're seeing. In other words, something in your head tells you how to have an opinion about this thing before you actually pay full attention to what that thing is. So in other words, you have a certain image of what you like or what you don't like, and whatever you see, you compare it to that sort of image that you wish it to be. Is it that or is it not that? So it looks like that everything that we see, we have something in our head that it is having an opinion of what our opinion is about something. In other words, is watching what our thought is thinking. So if something is watching what and how we interact with things, how our thought is about things, can we call that thing that is doing the watching, the act of watching of what we are watching? So it's observing what is being observed. If I have a bicycle here, and I've had a certain, bicycle in my life, and maybe one of them was my favorite. Now, when I look at this bicycle, I quickly see if I like it or not based on what was my favorite bicycle. So in other words, I have a blueprint of what I think about this bicycle that I'm seeing based on what information is in my consciousness. So my watcher, while I'm watching this bicycle, is actually wanting me to have an opinion of this bicycle that I'm watching based on what bicycle I had, based on the information of my favorite bicycle in my head. So it's observing how I'm observing other things. So the observer in my head is observing what I'm observing and is making an opinion for me based on what that observer, the watcher, has information of these sort of things, which I have accumulated through my cultures, through my upbringing, through my education, through what I've been exposed to, through where I have been raised, the kind of thing I've been exposed to, and so on and so forth. Now, does that mean that the watcher, the observer, actually is a different entity than I am, and therefore it could answer my questions? Well, if the watcher, the observer, is also a thought, an image, which I have in my head about myself, about the fact that it is watching what I'm watching, and what I'm watching, what I'm observing, is based on the information that this watcher has in my consciousness. So I'm seeing everything based on what I have in my consciousness, what I have in my memory, which I call that the observer, which I call that the watcher, the one that is actually giving me directions how to see something, how to judge something, how to have an opinion about what I'm seeing. So therefore, that consciousness itself, is that where I can ask my questions, or that itself is a limited knowledge, is a thought, accumulation of limited knowledge, which in fact is another image of me having for myself. I'm thinking that there is a higher self of me in here, which is making judgments based on what I'm seeing, about what I'm seeing. But in fact, that is all it is another image that I've created for myself. But it has no extraordinary knowledge. It's, again, thoughts. which makes it question, where did it come together? Where this observer, this watcher, how did it come to be? Well, it come to be based on the accumulation of all these other images that I have created, all this other information that I've created in my consciousness. So that itself is coming from whatever I have observed in my life. So the actual watcher, the actual observer, is the watched, because it's coming from all the things that I've watched and observed. So the actual observer is the observed, because it's just another image like any other image that I see in life, and I have taken on and say, I like this image, so I'm gonna, think of myself as that image, or a certain kind of image of myself. I don't like that image, so I change that image to something else. So all these images are how I interact with the world, and in fact, all these images are how we interact with each other's images. So all the images are dealing with each other. So therefore, we really don't have any direct contact with each other. We only have our images dealing with each other, like our ambassadors dealing with the ambassador of the other person, not me, myself, with the other person, himself or herself. So it's all images are interacting with each other. So if that's the case, this, what I am thinking is this superior me, is just a consciousness, which is a limited amount of information based on all these interactions that I've had with different images, which in fact the consciousness is also containing another image of me. So it's really a thought, not an unlimited source of answers and solutions. So therefore, the watcher is also a limited thought, which is coming based on the accumulation of all other thoughts in my life, the memory. So that itself is a product of what I've been interacting with, what I've been watching, what I've been having an opinion on through my life. So the observer, the watcher itself, is really another thing that I have observed, coming from what I have observed. So the observer is itself observed. The watcher is the watched. The observer is observed. Now, moving on from that, which that makes all my interactions with life fake. So I never really have direct connection with life without any conflict between the watcher, the observer, what's in my head, the center of me, the consciousness, without that controller, and observe or see what it is out there as in its actuality what it is, without any preconception, any perception. In other words, if I look at something, basically I'm not really looking at it, I'm looking at it with what information I have with my consciousness. And what is this, where this made was in the past. So really I'm looking at what I'm looking with the eye of the past, not really what it is. For example, if I look at an orange tree, I may look at the orange tree, but I may quickly remember the orange tree I had seen in Hawaii or in another time in the past, another location, maybe in my, auntie's home. So I quickly see that orange tree from the distance and I recognize it's an orange tree. That's great. So far, so good. But then as soon as I see the orange tree and I see the size of the orange, and then I compare it's a small, like the other orange that I saw in the store, or the other tree that I saw some other time in the past, or when I was a kid and I was with my parents, went to this big village or some orchard, and the kids were playing and I saw these orange trees or and it was bigger than this one or similar color. Now I'm in the past. I'm not really seeing that orange tree anymore. So I'm looking at it with the eye of the past. I am actually observing the orange tree with the eye of the past, with the information in my consciousness, which was accumulated through the past information, other orange trees that I've seen. So I'm no longer really connected with this orange tree that it is in front of me. I am basically looking at that direction, but the image of it is not itself in actuality. I'm seeing, thinking of another orange tree, which takes me to the past. Therefore, I'm seeing this orange tree with the eye of the past, in the past. I'm no longer here. Neither my information is about this orange tree anymore, nor I'm presently here. I've traveled in time. So really, these images are a mixture of death of the past and also the present and some possibility of what it will be in the future. So whatever I'm interacting with in life, I'm interacting with half about the death of the past, half about the actual presence of it, and partly about, well, that's two halves, so one of them is less than a half, 3 parts. And the other part is that I'm also focusing on the future of it that is yet to come. So all these images that I'm interacting my life with is based on a bunch of things. My memory, the information, my consciousness, momentary what I actually notice, the actuality of it, and then how it could be, how it will be, how it will grow, how it will be changed in the future. So really, most of the time, all I'm doing is I'm not really totally with the actuality of the moment because of all these things that I explained. Therefore, there's always a conflict between me and what I'm actually experiencing in life. Partly is the past, partly is the present, partly is what it will be. So in that case, I'm never really experiencing life, the whole of it, as its actuality is, the same way as I would, let's say, have a pure moment in life, like experiencing things with love. When I say love, I don't mean the sexual love between two people. I'm talking about love as a state of where there is no perception anymore. There is no observer. There is no watcher. There is no watched. There is no watcher. There is no observer. There is no observed. There is nothing that you can feel love by the past experience. The love is an emotion of total completeness at that moment. And that is when happens when you're totally with nothing else in your head, total abandoning yourself, surrendering, total surrendering, which means you're not judging, you have no opinion, you have no information of the past about that feeling, that emotion, that moment. So I call that love. So when you're looking at, let's say, in front of the ocean, you're sitting and looking at the ocean and you think nothing, you're just looking at the ocean, the wave of the ocean. You become the wave. You become the ocean. Because there is no more interference of the observer. There is no interference of the past information about that wave or that ocean. Nobody remembers the wave that they've seen a year ago. Nobody remembers how that wave moved to be able to perceive that in any way or shape, the wave that they're watching now. So as an example, if you imagine yourself in front of the ocean and just sitting quietly and watching the ocean movement, there is nothing else that you can compare it with. You're totally with that moment of the movement of that wave, and because you're with the actual movement of the wave, you are nowhere else. You're involved with the action of the wave, therefore you're one with the wave, therefore you're fully, totally in that moment of the movement of the wave, which is totally life, actuality of life. No perception, no watcher, no watched, no observer, no observed. Nothing is observer, nothing is observed. Your consciousness does not come into the picture. Your thoughts are not judging this. You're just seeing, observing that wave, and you are totally the wave. There is no you, there is no wave, there's only what's there. And that is the state of love. When I say love, meaning there is nothing interfering it, no conflict, nothing. What you're watching, what you're seeing, what you're experiencing is not based on anything in the past or the future. Is only the now. Is only one movement of the wave. Your thoughts, you are moving with the movement of the wave. And that is a total oneness with the nature. And if we could only do that with many other things in our daily life, without having these images to become the deciding factor of what it is that we are seeing, based on that image that we've created for ourselves, or based on an image of something that we are looking at that we have experienced in the past, a limited knowledge, nothing based on an observer in our head that is actually trying to say, is asking a question about what is this, and is trying to answer it. Well, if the observer, what I'm trying to judge things with, is actually accumulated information in my consciousness, which is the memory, that has a limited information itself. So it's another image. It's really is thoughts. And if that is just part of my thought and consciousness, which is limited information, therefore it doesn't have any answer. It doesn't have any more answer that I have. So it's not separated from me. It's another image that I have by myself, separated from other images that I have, and I call that observer. Is watching what I am doing. But in fact, that is no more than what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. It's another thought. So if it's another thought, then why am I calling it observer? Observing what? It's just another thought, another image. Therefore, the observer is the observed, is the same as observed. It's a thought again. I've just created this as a separate image of me somewhere in my consciousness, calling it the higher me. So if we put all that aside, come back to love, if we don't have that, then we will not have these parameters where we meet things and interact with things. There would not be images interacting with images. It would be me in actuality with what is out there in actuality. And I don't need to protect all these images. Therefore, I will not be getting up in the morning and being tensed about what image I will be having to enforce today, what image I will be having to protect today, what image it is going to be attacked, and I will be offended today, and I'll be tense, and I'll be upset, and I'll be thinking sad or depressed that somebody disrespected my image, because that's the image I made, but 2 minutes later I'll have a different image depending on what I'm doing. And all these can be translated into unnecessary, and only what we need is to look at life with love, which means total attention, like me and the wave we just discussed, and just see life as it is without any image. Neither will be tensed, nor there will be any conflict, neither nor. The third nor would be I will not be bothered or try to defend myself at any time, because I have no image. I'm meeting the world with its actuality, with love, which meaning I'm just observing it. That's it. I'm just observing how things are, and it's all thoughts, and I'm just trying to be one with what it is. If it's the orange tree, that orange tree that I'm just looking at it, not going out somewhere else and comparing it with another orange tree. Therefore, I end up being not there, being in the past, or whatever else that I'm interacting with. So when you're meeting life with love, meaning with its actuality, not imageries that you have created, there would be no observer, as you have said in your mind, and there would be only the observed. Everything would be observed. Everything would be at its actuality time. So remember, an observer doesn't exist. It's only thoughts. It's another image. Therefore, if that's the case, there is no conflict. When there is no observer, there is no conflict between observer and observed. When there is no observer and it's all thought, an observer is the observed, there's only one thing. Therefore, it's always free to see everything in its actuality, in its purity, without any preconception, without any perception. And that is when the truth of life comes out, which is more relaxed, tranquil, no conflict, no division, because there is no observer and observed. You just see what it is rather than perceiving what it is based off what experiences you've had in the past, and you're seeing whatever you're seeing with the eyes of the past, which comes from your consciousness, which comes from the past, and therefore you will not be in the present moment. So if we can consider how we can be in the atmosphere of love, in the frequency of love, which means only being one with what there is, like the ocean and the wave, then you will totally be tranquil. You'll totally be safe. Nothing there to be in conflict. No image is in conflict. So you don't have to protect anything. You don't have to be insulted. You don't have to be feeling uncomfortable, because you're just an entity with love flowing and interacting with love. Doesn't mean you're being, passive about anything that is going to come towards you and you be oblivious to it. No, it just means you don't have any conflict in your mind as far as consciousness deciding about how things are. Instead, you just see how things are and you interact with the actuality of things, with your own actuality, not imageries. Pretty much that's all I wanted to share with you. Hope it made sense to you, and hope it will give you something to ponder and maybe makes your day easier, more relaxed, and be able to walk through this journey of life with softer steps. Talk to you soon. Hope you have a wonderful day or evening, and be well.